The game never stops, and neither do we. Welcome to the SDH Network. We're always around the corner from everywhere, and the Morning Espresso is brought to you by Oglethorpe University, Atlanta's premier undergraduate learning experience and soccer powerhouse. It's Thursday, it's February 19th. I'm Jason Longshore. We've got a full cup of espresso for you today. Some Champions League chaos north of the Arctic Circle. Major League Soccer leaning hard into the World Cup runway. Atlanta United back out at training this morning. We'll be there. And a historic crowd already building in Denver before the first home match even happens for the summit. So grab your coffee. Let's get into it. Now, I want to start with this. Today, February 19th, it marks the birthday of one of the game's most distinctive figures, Socrates. So he was born this day in 1954. He's not just a legendary Brazilian midfielder. He's one of the game's great thinkers. He was a player who was exceptionally tall for his midfield position. Like he didn't look like he fit, but he moved and he played in such an elegant way and such an intelligent way. Really before you had those kinds of players in the middle of the pitch in that way. He also earned a medical degree. Dr. Socrates, like in every sense of it, that's who he was. Vision on the field, incredible. His first touch, impeccable. He was creative. He was just like one of the first guys that you really associate a back heel with. He was part of Brazil's 1982 generation, which even though they didn't win the World Cup that year, they are revered as maybe everybody's favorite team that didn't win a World Cup. Go watch that team, watch the highlights if you've never seen it. Just incredible soccer from an attacking perspective, maybe not as much on the defensive side. But his legacy goes beyond just that. It goes beyond tactics. It goes beyond results. At Corinthians, he helped lead Democracia Corintiana, which was a movement where players and staff shared decision-making. It was a pretty radical thing at that time in the 70s and 80s, and also in Brazilian culture at that time, having a kind of democracy within a soccer club. That was unheard of. Socrates, he will always remain a figure in the game's history that should be remembered, and he'll always be a reminder that the great artists of the game shape the game in a way that often outlives their years. Socrates, born on this day in 1954. All right, let's bring it back to MLS. This is a moment that could outlive its current time on the calendar, 2026 for Major League Soccer. Sports Business Journal has a great big feature looking at the league as it heads into 2026 with World Cup momentum now fully in sight. MLS sees the summer as the single biggest growth opportunity in its modern history. Don Garber promised years ago that the league would be ready for this World Cup on home soil. SBJ kind of argues that the runway has been transformative for the league. You look at where it is. 30 teams now, presence in 24 of the top 30 media markets, stadiums everywhere, stadiums that you control everywhere, franchise valuations exploding, franchise fees that are being paid for either portions or all of them exploding, Lionel Messi redefining what's possible for the league. But what's really notable is what the league is planning to do during the tournament. So they're going to take a break, as they should, from mid-May until mid-July. But they are making what is called a significant 8-figure marketing investment, every club contributing to that at the league level. Estimates range from 15 to 30 million in centralized spend, and that's before the local club activations. Teams in host cities like New York, Houston, they're building hospitality programs, fan zones, stadium-based watch parties, sponsor-facing events. For New York, it's a huge way for them to kick off sales for their new stadium, which will open next summer in 27. Non-host markets like Chicago, San Diego, they're creating their own tournament-long festival hubs, trying to own the month and bring fans directly into their ecosystem. And I mentioned MLS structure in the calendar. It's a 7-week hiatus during the heart of the tournament, and then a restart with rivalry matches during the World Cup, rest days between the semifinals and the final. Atlanta United will be part of that Friday night. July 19th in Nashville. The El Tráfico will be in that window as well out in Los Angeles. Fox is leaning into that in a big way. MLS wants soccer fans watching the World Cup to have that next step waiting immediately for them. That's why Atlanta United is playing on the Friday between the semifinal here in Atlanta and the final on Sunday, and then playing again on Wednesday in Charlotte. You get rivalry games on either side of the World Cup final, and I think that's a big, smart scheduling element here of trying to maximize what kind of effect and what kind of excitement you can get. It's not being treated as just a bump that goes up and comes down and goes away. MLS is trying to treat the summer as a generational inflection point, and we'll see if they can achieve that. Story 2, we're seeing an inflection point in Denver. The Summit, they have surpassed 45,000 tickets sold for their inaugural home match in the NWSL. They're calling it the kickoff. It's going to be March 28th at Empower Field at Mile High. They've already broken the NWSL single game attendance record. That was just over 40,000 set by Bay FC last season. Denver's opening the upper deck. Tickets are limited. This is being framed as a defining sports moment for Colorado. This sets the bar even higher for Atlanta coming in 2028 into the league. I'm excited to see what Atlanta does to try to top this. Speaking of Atlanta, let's stay here. Madison Cruz and I will be out at Atlanta United training this morning. The Five Stripes continuing preparations for Saturday's season opener in Cincinnati. After the session, Latte, Lath, and Tata Martino are going to speak to the media. We'll have full reaction from the two of us in our first training ground dispatch of the season, and a new training ground notebook will be coming to the SDH website later this afternoon. This is where everything starts to sharpen up, roles become clearer, and we start to look for the identity under Tata Martino as it locks in. Also, in our Atlanta United at 10 series, our photographer, Sophia Cupertino, one of the best around anywhere in the world. She's been part of the club story from two different perspectives. First as a young fan in the stands, now with a camera in her hands on the sideline. In our latest feature, she shares 10 of her favorite photos that she's taken of Atlanta United, along with the moments behind them. Iconic celebrations, quiet emotional turning points. It's a reminder that the decade is not just defined by results. It's not just defined by goals. It's not just defined by players, but it's defined by the memories, the snapshots, literally in this case, that stay with you. Go read that now over at soccerdownhere.net. Let's go to Europe and talk about Champions League from yesterday. Bodø Glimt, their incredible run continues with another shock. They beat Inter 3-1 in Norway in the first leg of their playoff. Inter made it to the final last year. Bodø Glimt hasn't even started back in league play yet, and they've got 3 wins. They've beaten Manchester City, they've beaten Latte away, and now they've beaten Serie A's leaders at home. Inter had equalized briefly through Pio Esposito, but Bodø Glimt's passing movement carved them open in the second half. Jon Petter Hauge and Kasper Høeg, they sealed it. Huge win for Bodø Glimt. They have a 2-goal cushion. They've got to go to Milan now to face Internazionale at the San Siro. Ooh, that's going to be a must-watch. Elsewhere, Newcastle, their second game will not be a must-watch. They produced one of the performances of the round. Anthony Gordon, 4 first-half goals, 6-1 rout of Karabag, setting records, putting Newcastle firmly into the last 16. Yeah, they got to play 90 more minutes. They'll be fine. At Latte, 3-3 draw with Club Brugge in a wild match, and Bayer Leverkusen, they took control with a 2-0 win over Olympiacos. Second legs to come. Concacaf Champions Cup, let's bring it back to the domestic focus. MLS teams have made strong opening statements throughout this tournament. Philadelphia Union, they hammered Defense Force 5-0 in Trinidad and Tobago. Debutant Ezequiel Alado, he scored twice. Kevin Sullivan became the youngest Union player to ever record an assist with the first team. FC Cincinnati, who we'll see on Saturday with Atlanta United, they cruised past O&M FC 4-0 with Ayub Jabari scoring twice late. Vancouver Whitecaps, they were held scoreless at CS Cartaginés, but they had a good chance. It was cleared off the line late, so that one will go back to Vancouver 0-0 in the second leg. NYC, I mentioned it earlier, their stadium timeline has shifted just a little bit. Etihad Park has been pushed back. It'll open in summer of 2027 for the new MLS season on the new calendar. So the transitional season in the first half of 2027, NYC will play at Yankee Stadium and Citi Field, depending on the schedule. Sporting Kansas City, they have added Lasse Berg Jonsson, a Norwegian midfielder from Malmo in Sweden. Prime age edition, he's under contract through 2028. Kansas City sees him as a big quality boost in midfield in possession. Charlotte, they have extended Israeli forward Idan Toklamari through the 2029 season with an option year beyond that. Scored 13 goals last season, and it is a really smart move for Charlotte to lock him up for a good while. MLS recently wrapped its annual Jersey Week, one of the league's biggest off-season social media moments. This year's top-performing kit launches were led by Inter Miami, no shock there at number 1, followed by Minnesota United, maybe a little bit of a shock at number 2. LAFC 3, LA Galaxy 4, Atlanta United 5. Atlanta had more than 58,000 engagements and over 1.3 million impressions on release day for the Spirit of 96 kit. Full top 10 also included Columbus, Seattle, Charlotte, Cincinnati, and NYC. Red Clay Soccer Report. You can check out yesterday's episode wherever you get your Soccer Down Here podcasts, also on the SDH YouTube channel and Twitch channel. We were in action last night over at Brookwood High School. We had the call for Brookwood and St. Pius. It was a split. The boys, St. Pius, won that one 2-1. Brookwood's girls delivered a 5-1 win. Sophomore Taylor Barnett starred with 2 goals and an assist in that one. This is a really young Brookwood group. I think it was 4 freshmen starting, and Barnett, a sophomore, a couple other sophomores as well. They only lost one time last year. That was in the state quarterfinals. This is a team that can make a run deep into the state playoffs. I was really impressed with Brookwood yesterday. Next up on the SDH Network, always presented to you by Kaiser Permanente, our presenting sponsor of high school coverage. Madison and John Nelson will be in Gainesville on Friday nights. Becoming a state Classico, Dalton traveling to face Johnson. The Catamounts of Dalton, they come in after a dramatic 4-3 win over Walton. It was sealed by a late winner from Joe Gonzalez, one of the top players in the state of Georgia. He had a hat trick, and his goal with, I think, about 43 seconds left ended up deciding that one. Around the corner on SDH AM, it starts at 9:05. John Nelson hosting. Lucas Panzica from Nashville SC Radio is joining to talk about the boys in gold in 2026. Katie George of Atlanta Amputee Soccer joins to discuss their big award from U.S. Soccer. And then at 10 a.m., it's the Power Hour. Nino Torres and Nico Moreno talking soccer all across the Western Hemisphere and beyond. You never know what you're going to get with Nino and Nico. That starts at 10 o'clock. All right, let's finish things up with a quick refill. Arsenal, they let a 2-goal lead slip, and maybe their control of the Premier League title slip a little bit. They drew 2-2 at last place Wolves. Mikel Arteta, he said all criticism was fair for the performance, and now the Gunners face a massive North London derby against Spurs, with Manchester City closing in. Women's Champions League in Europe, Arsenal and Real Madrid, they have reached the quarterfinals. Alessia Russo scored twice to set up the Gunners playing Chelsea. Ooh, that's a big one. Real Madrid, they advanced to face Barcelona in a Clásico. That's a big one. Good setup for the quarterfinals in the UEFA Women's Champions League. Felipe Coutinho, he announced his departure from Vasco da Gama. He cited mental exhaustion and the need to prioritize his well-being. Vasco has really played poorly this season. They are going to have to scramble to stay up in the top flight in Brazil. And Coutinho has gotten a lot of the pressure for the poor performances and blame unfairly. And it's really started to wear on him. There have been some rumors of a potential move to Major League Soccer in the Brazilian media, but I haven't seen that really progress as of yet. Milan, they drew 1-1 with Como. They have fallen 7 points behind Inter, but the match was overshadowed a little bit. Some touchline chaos involving Como coach Cesc Fabregas, Max Allegri, the manager for Milan. Allegri was sent off. Fabregas apologized. He slowed up a potential break for Milan when the ball went out of play. There was thoughts about him grabbing a Milan player. He said he touched the ball. I don't know. It looked pretty bad all the way around. He apologized for the unsporting gesture. Villarreal, they strengthened their grip on third place in La Liga, 1-0 win at Levante. Marseille, they have appointed Habib Beye as their head coach, hoping for a jolt after some poor form and a Champions League exit. Beye was at Rennes. Now, he was let go there about a month ago. Rennes have appointed Franck Heisse through 2027. He is being tasked with pushing the club into Champions League places, which is possible for Rennes. And in France as well, Le Mans, they have attracted some star investors. They have Thibaut Courtois joining the ownership group. Quite a few other big names in that ownership group. A team right now in the lower divisions to keep an eye on in French football. Look, today's Espresso, it's a reminder of how wide the lens, sometimes literally, when we're talking about Sofia Coutinho, how wide that can be. From the legacy of Socrates to MLS positioning itself for a defining World Cup summer to Atlanta United getting ready to head to Cincinnati, everything feels like it's sharpening into focus. Everything is going in every direction all at once. High school, pro, international, everything, off the field business, the whole gamut. I mean, we've got upsets north of the Arctic Circle. We've got record crowds coming to Denver a mile high in the air. We got high school rivalries coming in Georgia and this World Cup runway that MLS and honestly the game as a whole across the country believes can change its future permanently. Yeah, it's just February. Season's almost here in Major League Soccer. The stakes are already rising. That's Morning Espresso for Thursday, February 19th. Subscribe, share. We'll see you later today with the training ground coverage over at soccerdownhere.net and on all of our social media channels at Soccer Down Here. Thanks for listening, everybody. Enjoy your coffee, and I will be back with you tomorrow.